What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Mile High Hockey. Mike and Will with you as always. And Mike, I think the theme today is it feels like the Avalanche can't score, particularly on the road right now. 1-3-0 since the Mikko Rantanen trade, and in those 3 losses, just 3 total goals. Coming off a shutout the other night against the Vancouver Canucks, hit some posts early, but then that game was really frustrating to watch. What was your biggest takeaway of the game against the Canucks, and also this notion that the road since the trade has been a real struggle for the Avs?
Well, it's one of those things because, like, when you're on the road, the home team gets the last change, so they can be a little bit more intent on trying to defend your top line. And right now, it just seems like with the Avs, unless their top line is producing, they're stuck. They are not getting that production from their second, third, and fourth lines. And look, it's always been an issue with the Avs about getting secondary scoring. But there was always kind of the idea, hey, you got to get a little bit more from the third line and the fourth line. Right now, they're getting that drought also from the second line as well. So they have to find ways to get more offense. And unfortunately, it's sort of making Chris McFarland's comments after the Mikko Rantanen trade kind of ring a little bit, more profoundly, the idea that, well, we don't have enough depth up and down our lineup, which is part of the reason why we had to make the deal. And however you want to look at why they don't have that depth, the fact of the matter is they need more secondary scoring.
They do, and you look at it right now, and Ross Colton, Casey Middlestad, Logan O'Connor. I mean, these guys are all in slumps that, it's not just a week or two. Yeah. We're talking month-long deals. I mean, the stats are alarming in terms of they're just not finding the back of the net. You remember Colton early. You remember Middlestad flashing in the playoffs last year and getting paid. Even a guy like O'Connor, you think of him more as like a penalty kill guy. Well, unfortunately, Logan O'Connor now does need to be a secondary scoring guy. Is it as simple as these guys will get going eventually, or is it like, well, Chris, you told us you needed more depth, but you only traded Mikko for 2 players. Like, do they have to do something else dramatic between now and March 7th if they want a real shot at winning this thing?
Well, getting Val Nichushkin back will be a huge boost. Okay, that's
we think.
We hope.
But again, he got hurt on New Year's Eve, and we haven't seen him since.
All right, so I'm going on the assumption that he's going to be back.
That's a dangerous
I know.
one.
That's it. Well, all right. Well, then let me just say, if he's not coming back,
they ain't winning anything.
They're sunk.
Yeah.
Okay. They're sunk. You just that's just too big of a. We've already seen it the last couple of years. No Val, what that means. So they have to get him back. So I'm going to assume he comes back. I think that would be a big lift. I think these things can be cyclical, Will, in terms of, guys are struggling, and then all it takes is 1 or 2 to go in, and that kind of starts to get it going. It could become a contagious type thing. But make no mistake, two big things look like they're going to have to happen. 1, they got to get Val back, and 2, I think you're going to have to see more deals. It appears that they're in on deals. All the reports are that they were very much interested in JT Miller, but didn't have enough to offer. So it would appear that they're at least looking to make upgrades.
Well, Chris McFarland certainly has shown he's not afraid to make deals. The thing that bothered me about the Vancouver game, Mike, and you can talk about some of my Twitter here if you want.
I would like to.
The thing that bothered me was Marty Netjes hits a post very early on when he had a chunk of open net, and all anyone can tell me is he looks so good. He's amazing. He's great. This trade is awesome. And I'm like, we're now giving guys credits for hitting posts, because I firmly believe if they get a 1-0 lead in that game, it feels entirely different. Kel McCarr had a couple posts, but a big difference in my eyes hitting the post from 30 feet away as opposed to 3 feet away. Feels like we're treating Netjes with kid gloves a little bit because we just want him so badly to fit in, and I think that's where some of my issues come is Mikko Rantanen did it for 10 years. He's been here for 10 days, but everything he does is great, even when he misses open nets and hits posts.
Well, I've been enjoying watching your battle across X, across Twitter.
Let me have it.
No, I'm not letting you have it.
Okay.
I think you're making good points. Here's the thing. We live in this world where I think the moment a big deal, we immediately want to keep score, right? We want to know immediately who won. Who won the trade? Did my team win the trade? Did your team win the trade? Our guy that's now playing for you isn't playing that well. Turns out we knew what we were doing, right? People want that immediate scoreboard when it comes to the Marty Netchis, Jack Drury, and Mikko Rantanen trade. These kind of things, unfortunately, I'm going to give you a take that, maybe you don't like. We got to wait a while. We got to wait a while before we know. Like, I'll give you an example, okay? A year ago at this time, at the trade deadline, when they acquired Casey Middlestat, it was like we got our second-line center. Mm-hmm. And then he went out and played pretty well. Then he got the contract, and we're like, we're set, right? We're good. We got our Nazem Kadri replacement. Finally. We are good. Now here we are a year later, and Casey Middlestat's on the trading block, and you got the same people, both fans and media, who are just loving the Casey Middlestat deal, who a year later is like, trade the bum. So I'm not saying that Marty Netchis is going down that road at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, can we let this thing breathe a little bit? We will not know the winner of this trade until next year, until we at least go through a playoff cycle. I cannot grade this trade based on simply what I'm seeing in the regular season. Until I see it play out in the playoffs, then I can't even begin to fully grade this trade.
Okay, but the pushback I would give you, this trade is under such a microscope because it's a massive trade.
Sure.
With all due respect to Bowen Byram and Casey Middlestad, the 1 to 10, that's like a 5 or a 6.
Sure.
This is a 10 out of 10, an 11 out of 10 type trade. That's why it's under such a microscope, and that's why every game feels like a reaction. And that's why every game I feel like I have to go and fight people on social media that get in my mentions when I just offer up a take, usually backed by facts, and all of a sudden all this hate starts pouring in. That's what Chris McFarland did when he made this deal. Mm-hmm. He made it so that we are watching a game in February in Vancouver like a playoff game, because we're all so high-strung right now that every game is an evaluation of this trade.
Well,
can you buy that?
Then I'm going to tell all of you, and you,
okay,
chill a little bit. Because
he's like one of my favorite players. He's a top 10 player in franchise history. He's a top 10 player on planet Earth.
Right.
They should have never traded him, so why do I have to chill? Why can't I react to every game that it looks like they can't score anymore?
Because if Marty Netchis goes out and lights it up during the regular season and then disappears during the playoffs, it was a whiff, especially if Mikko Rantanen goes on to have a good playoff run.
Well, he's not lighting up anything right now.
If Netchis, doesn't do much and goes in a slump for the rest of the season, but then has a terrific playoff run, and Mikko and the Canes get knocked out early, the Avs won. Look, we're talking about the Avs here. They're in a Stanley Cup window. Their success is based on what they do in the playoffs. So while I understand in the immediate aftermath of the trade why people desperately want to keep score, and if Mikko puts up an empty night and Netchis has a point or two, Avs won the trade. If Netchis goes quiet and Mikko scores a power play goal, Canes won the deal. It's too early to do that, and I get why people do it because they're so invested. But I'm just telling you, when both teams, that's the beauty of this trade. Will, we're talking about both teams are in a Stanley Cup or bust window.
Yep.
So that's why ultimately, until we see how these guys perform in the playoffs, and I guarantee you there are Carolina Hurricane fans watching this who are saying, you watch until the playoffs and watch when Netchis disappears, because that's what he's done more often than not for us.
Yeah.
So, again, we won't really know until it plays out in the playoffs. That said, I love watching the arguments back and forth between you and others on Twitter. Very entertaining, and fortunately for this week, it's not me.
Yeah, I was going to say last week it was you. This week it was me. Listen, I'm going to take your advice. Deep breath. I'm going to chill. But I also just want the quick acknowledgement from you that you can appreciate that this trade is indeed under a microscope, literally game by game. Is that fair?
I understand.
You understand why?
Maybe I understand why.
Okay.
But you also understand why I'm not in any hurry
You're not
to declare
doing
a winner.
the day by day, but you can at least appreciate why someone like me is looking at each game more intensely now.
However, I'm more concerned about the Avs' second, third, fourth line. I mean, they need help. Because you know what? If they don't get more help, then this whole Netchis versus Mikko deal really will be a moot point.
They're one and done in the playoffs.
Because they'll be done quick.
Yeah, they'll probably play like Vegas in the first round and lose in 5 or 6.
Because if they don't get more help, then it won't matter if Mikko was still here or the trade was made and Netchis is here. It's still the same result if they don't get more help.
I don't think we have enough time to debate that, but I think they could have won the Cup with Mikko this year. I'm not sure they can win the Cup now.
Not if they're getting the current lack of help that they're getting. Do you think so?
I know, but then all of a sudden Nichushkin comes back. Maybe here comes Gabe.
Okay.
I don't know. I just would have
All
liked. Here's the thing. They haven't had a playoff run since they won the Stanley Cup that included Mikko Rantanen, Gabe Landeskog, and Valerian Nichushkin. In fact, Mikko's the only one who finished the Kraken series and finished the Stars series the last couple of years.
Can you imagine, by the way, if I had told you right after the Avs won the Cup, enjoy this, everybody, because this will be the last time you will ever see Nathan MacKinnon, Val Nichushkin, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabe Landeskog playing a game together.
No. I mean, it's crazy.
If I told you that. Enjoy the parade, everybody, because this is the last time you see these guys together.
I mean, I would never trade it for anything because that was such a magical run, but you're right. The breaks really have not gone their way since that day in June in 2022. That's for sure. All right, Avs and Flames tonight. They'll play again
after them.
tomorrow.
Keep going after them.
And then we got Four Nations
poke 'em.
break. Mike and I will be back next Tuesday. Talk about these last two games on Canada, and then start looking at the Four Nations as well. We'll see you next time on Mile High Hockey.